Oh, there you are. Welcome, everybody. And this is our first episode of Match Day, which is a webinar series. We're going to try and do 2 a day, but not always. But just wanted to, first off, welcome. So far, it looks like there are 34 people that are attending. Welcome. And if you need any questions answered afterwards, hopefully all of you know our communications and our emails and our phone numbers if you want. But this is meant to be kind of fun and light, but yet we'll provide informational webinars throughout this series. And unfortunately, we're all in the situation where we're stuck at home. So we're going to go and get started. This one is basically about just books you can read while you're sitting at home, and maybe some shows you can consider. And so obviously, I have my boss here with me, Ian Barker, and he's going to go ahead and start the show. So,
thank you, Vince. Light and fun, and then you get two guys that look me and Vince is kind of interesting. I'd like to assure everybody.
Do you like my shirt, by the way? Do you like my shirt?
Well, I hope you get to that when we get to the movies.
But sorry. Okay.
I have clothing on all the way below the table, below the screen. I'm fully dressed. I am fully bathed, but I'm not shaving for an indefinite period of time. I've never been able to grow facial hair, but apparently in the last 8 days I've got some. So that's me. I think we're proposing 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock Central every day for about 15 minutes. And we'll get some people in. Any of you want to come in as guests sometime, we'll get you in as a presenter and you can present too. So today, somewhat serious, somewhat fun, books and things that we're reading, things maybe you can get into while you've got more free time away from the field. Here are 8 books, none of which are soccer specific, or one is soccer specific, but 8 books you might want to read from, or a bit like when you put Google Play Music on, you get a band and then it leads you to another band and leads you to another band. So Legacy is about the All Black rugby culture, a really interesting book. The author, James Kerr, recently presented at the US Club ECNL workshop, and highly recommended. It's 15 chapters, which is the number of players on a team. And I really had a good time reading that book. And I've actually kind of turned it into a lecture and presented on it if somebody wants to sit around for about 45 minutes. Malcolm Gladwell, I think we could debate the degree of research and science in his work, but it's really entertaining reading. The tipping point particularly is about how you get people to do things and move people around. So from an organizational team culture, I really like the Gladwell book. And I like all of Gladwell's books. Very easy reading, be it audio books, be it the hard copy, or you use a Kindle or some such device. This book, it's a little bit heavy. So this is definitely for a soccer fan, soccer coach. But it's a very fascinating and well-detailed book on tactics. And what's interesting about it is how many of us go through these cycles. So at different times, 3-5-2, but now everything's more like a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. And so what Jonathan Wilson covers is how those tactics have changed and evolved over the years. This book, Chimp Paradox, really fascinating about personal management, managing your emotions, and then being more effective in the workplace. So he'll talk about things essentially like you slam your finger in the car door, you have a visceral reaction, but you don't live in that space. After a while, you work out, let's not do that again. So it's a really interesting study of neuroscience and how we control emotion, but it's done with this sort of allegory of a chimp inside your head and a computer inside your head and how you become the human. Really fascinating book. Really like that one. Most of you that are on the call or on the show will be familiar with this work. I think John Wooden's book is sort of timeless. The Pyramid, the UCLA basketball program, just really good stuff. Kind of a bedside book that you might pick up and just look at a couple of pages every now and again. Another rugby book And this was because England won the Rugby World Cup. And some of it is a little bit about him in his early career. But when you get into the middle and the final part of the book, about organizational culture. So a very simple example, especially if any of you on the call are college coaches. All of the images in the England rugby setup when he came and took the job were of the greats and the legacy players. And when the players walked in, there was no images of themselves. So he changed the locker room and he put up images of the current players. He changed the clothing and the way the uniforms were manufactured. He identified what was the team and what were the subsets around the team that contributed. So the team, the coaches, the medical staff, the families, the fans. A really fascinating book on organizational culture in a sport context. This one, there are 3 or 4 Freakonomics books. One of the guys is a journalist, one is an economist at the University of Chicago, and they write really interesting stuff about creating like little social epidemics, if you will, how you get people to work and think differently, how you inspire and motivate, but from a research-based but very popular kind of approach, highly readable, short chapters. So what you get when you read these guys, Freakonomics, is you get a lot of the accessibility you get when you read Malcolm Gladwell, but arguably you get a bit more science. And then finally, a shout out to a good friend of ours, Doug Lemoff. Doug is a teacher by trade who now is full-time in educational programming, educational structures, helping school districts do better for their children. So this is from a teacher. It is highly detailed, highly research-based, but some of Doug's work got adopted by US Soccer and became quite inspirational in some of the work that Dave Chesler and Vince did. And anytime you can get in front of Doug Lemoff's content, it will make you think differently about how you coach to the positive. So there's 8 books that I have on my bookshelf and that I refer to on a regular basis.
All right. So I was just going to continue and just hold up some because they're not on the slides. So this is my favorite kind of teaching book right now. And it's called Effective Modern Coaching by Miles Downey. And anybody that sat through any of my any of the courses that I've been an instructor is basically you've heard me reference this book quite a bit. And it has, it's basically a business book, but there's a lot of really interesting little tidbits about how, in sport, we can use some of the lessons in here. For example, there's a phrase that says potential minus interference equals performance. So if you think about it, every kid, every team has potential. As a coach, your job is to eliminate or reduce that interference so they can perform. So little lessons like that in the book, and it's fantastic. And Michelle, I see your comment. That's great. Here's another one. When I was a school teacher, a marketing teacher, it's called Thinker Toys, and it's basically a marketing book. But whenever I need to problem solve or brainstorm, there's a technique in there called Scamper, and S stands for substitute, C is change, A is adjust, M is modify, P is put to other use, E is eliminate, and R, there's actually 2 R's, reverse or rearrange. So when you're brainstorming or you're figuring out, okay, what can I substitute? For example, our education right now, what can we substitute for in person? Well, we're substituting, webinars and opportunities online, but it's just really good. It's a great book. And then this one is written by a friend of mine named Dr. Rob Bell. A lot of us are looking for coaches for parents. And it's basically, the title is Don't Should Your Kids. And it's really, really good. And then just a few soccer books, or just one, actually, because of time.
Vince, take the slides off and then you will appear as a big head on the screen. And then people can see those books in all their glory. And you can cover your face with them if you want to. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
You should be able to go to slides, stop the slide presentation, and it's just you and me after that.
It just says start. So there we
go.
Oh, hey. By the way, so this is the Holy Grail. Good luck finding this in print. It's actually, if you look for it on eBay, it'll be shocking. But it's basically just 600 games. It was written a long time ago. Benedict and Palafi are the authors, but just just old school diagrams and all that, but still has a lot of relevance today. So let's go ahead and get into. Should we get into our the movies? We got about 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So the jersey. By the way, so one of my favorite movies, of all time soccer movies, is obviously the movie Victory, and the great acting by Sylvester Stallone and Pele and Michael Caine. So the shirt I'm wearing, shout out to Mark Perdue in Colorado. Basically, he gave me this shirt because at his camp, the kids watch the movie Victory all week. It's pretty cool. All right, so on to some shows, and these are just a few, and I'm sure a lot of you on this broadcast, you're like, well, you don't have this one or this one. But Netflix, Sunderland Till I Die is just a fantastic little documentary. I happened to have the opportunity to go there and be at the Stadium of Light for a full week, so felt like I was back there again. But here's, a lot of these are just documentaries. The Bobby Robson one is fantastic. Apache is the Carlos Tevez story. Barca Dreams, Becoming Champions, just different World Cups. And then the summer of 92. It's actually a movie on when the Danes won the Euros back in, I believe it was the 80s. Is that right?
The reason was interesting was that they weren't meant to be there. Yugoslavia was, but because the Balkans War, Yugoslavia was banned. So at the last minute, Denmark got invited in as a wild card. They hadn't been training, they weren't ready, and then they won the darn thing. So that was kind of why it's such a big deal.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. And you see the transformation of the coach too throughout, and because he wanted to play a certain style, but the players didn't like that style, and it wasn't like it's not the Danish way. A few of these, the 21 Thunder, it's kind of in my humble opinion, a cheesy little documentary. A show. I mean, it's a show and fictional show, but I found it rather entertaining. Trainer is about the German managers. I'm going to go on to Amazon Prime. I'm actually watching 6 Dreams right now, and it's about 6 different clubs in La Liga. It's just fascinating. I'm on episode 3 right now. But they've got quite a few of the all or nothings. So the Brazil all or nothing, the Man City one is fantastic. Iron Man is about Aston Villa. Field of Stars is the Real Madrid. The 4-year plan I found really fun to watch, and it was QPR, and it was a whole documentary on QPR. And Take Leeds, who's narrated by the series is narrated by Russell Crowe. And Inside Borussia Dortmund, again, a good one. And then one thing I really love is that they have the highlight films from all the World Cups, all of them, men and women. And for example, the 1982 highlight film that was narrated by Sean Connery, it's my all-time favorite one. It's on there. 1986 World Cup documentary, narrated by Michael Caine, is on there. Just really neat documentaries, and just kind of takes you back a little bit. And then lastly, all I have here is the 30 for 30s. Again, another source for shows to watch. The Hillsborough one is very moving emotionally. And then George Best, the 2 Escobars, is fascinating. The Maradona one is very tough to find on 30 for 30. I think you can go to YouTube and find it. The Man Who Made All of Brazil Cry, it's about the 1950 World Cup. And then the Mystery of the Jules Rimet, the Jules Rimet Trophy. And then there's also the Myth of Garincha, that's also on there as well. So really, really interesting shows. But I think, Coach Barker, you said you have a few, because we got about like 20 seconds left, I think.
Yeah, so while I'm listening there, I'm inspired by you. Books, The Miracle of Castel de Sangro, Damn United, the movie and the book, fantastic.
Yeah.
On the Amazon Prime right now, you can find a thing called The Test, which is about cricket. But if you want to get behind the scenes with cricket from a sport culture, so in 2017-18, 2017-18, Australian cricket had this big controversy. And so there's a 7-part on Prime, Amazon Prime called The Test about how they came back from that. So those are some other good ones. And I put them in the chat box, the books. I put Castel de Sangro and Damn United. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. Just to first off, thank everyone for their time, and hopefully, this was just fun and light. Thank Coach Barker, obviously my boss, for his time. Tomorrow, we're going to have a 2-part webinar series with Steve Ryan and Brandon Silva. They're instructors for us, but they're going to show coaches how to use the program called Flipgrid to engage your players. It's fascinating. So there'll be a show at noon tomorrow, and there'll be a show at 4, but they relate. They'll go together. So you'll get like a task to do at the noon one, and then at 4 o'clock, you'll see the results of it. So really looking forward to that. I'll post those registration links on Twitter and also my Facebook. And so look out for that. But again, thank you all so much for being on here. Looks as though 48 of you stayed on. And I've seen several emails come in about wanting the presentation, which I'm more than happy to. I'll just send that out shortly after this. So thanks again. And I'll see you. Well, I won't see you, but we'll talk tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.